Lumian Lee stares into his own reflection, his mirror self, a fractured remnant of his former identity. But this is no ordinary reflection. It is the embodiment of his past self, his suffering, and the truth he desperately wishes to ignore. He is not free. He never has been. He is a puppet of fate, a pawn of gods who script his life not for his own sake, but as a necessary sacrifice against the apocalypse. Yet his mirror self does not exist merely to reflect his suffering. It is a product of his beyonder path, a being formed when he advanced to the demoness of despair sequence, forever tethered to him and longing for autonomy. Today, we are dissecting Lumian Lee's misery and his mirror self's torment, bound together by fate and their singular goal, to revive Aurore. Unlike a simple reflection, the mirror self is a distinct entity, born from the advancement into the demoness pathway. At sequence 7, a beyonder manifests a mirror self of their original gender, granting them access to mirror-related abilities. This entity, however, does not see itself as a mere tool. It considers itself the true self. From its perspective, the Lumian outside the mirror is an imposter, the one who stole its place in the world. The mirror self tells Lumian, "Damn it, but I suffer while being happy. Because what causes you pain makes me feel pain too. When you're in despair, I'm in despair too." This reveals the fundamental tragedy of their existence. Unlike an independent being, the mirror self is forced to share in Lumian's suffering. It is not truly free, despite existing separately. Every wound Lumian endures is a wound the mirror self feels. Every moment of despair is reflected within it, binding them in a cycle of mutual torment. Yet, unlike Lumian, the mirror self does not have the illusion of agency. It knows it is a byproduct, a second self that can never truly take over without Lumian's consent. His mirror self then confesses, "Sometimes I think, letting me replace you to face all this, I'd rather die a few more times." This statement is not just about escaping pain. It is an expression of the mirror self's resentment. It wants to replace Lumian, to take control of its own fate, yet at the same time, it recognizes the futility of such a desire. Replacing Lumian would not erase the suffering. It would merely transfer it. The mirror self knows this and despairs over it. Being Lumian means being shackled by fate, and that is a fate neither of them can escape. Despite its resentment, the mirror self does not act against Lumian. Instead, it urges him to move forward, for they both share a singular, unwavering goal: reviving Aurore. This mission binds them together more than any existential conflict. The mirror self's plea, "My little cabbage, why can't you be happier, enjoy more, make me jealous, make me strongly want to replace you," is a bitter paradox. If Lumian were truly free, if he could find joy in his existence, then perhaps the mirror self would have reason to fight for control. But he cannot. The weight of his circumstances makes happiness an impossibility. How can he enjoy life when every step he takes is dictated by higher powers? How can he embrace the present when his every action is driven by the past? The mirror self does not want to replace a broken man. It wants to replace someone who is living, and that is exactly why it cannot act. It watches, trapped, knowing that Lumian's misery ensures its own stagnation. Until Aurore is revived, neither of them can move forward. When Lumian and his mirror self clasp hands, it is not a moment of resolution. It is an acknowledgement of their shared imprisonment. The mirror self does not reconcile out of love or submission, but because it recognizes that replacing Lumian would achieve nothing. Their fates are intertwined. They are two halves of the same being, suffering in tandem, driven by the same obsession. The mirror self, despite its resentment, does not fight to take his place. It has already realized what Lumian has yet to fully accept. They were never meant to be free. Their existence is dictated by forces beyond their control, and all they can do is march forward toward a future they cannot shape. Thus, their tragedy continues. Two selves, bound together by suffering and inevitability, walking a path that may never lead to salvation. Lumian Lee is not just a tragic character. He is the embodiment of what it means to be bound by fate. Through his mirror self, We see the agony of a man who was never given agency over his own life, and the resentment of a being that understands this, but cannot escape it. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe for more analyses of your favorite characters.